Hey everybody, Rip with Bob's Watches. Today we're doing a long-term review of the timepiece that I wear most on a daily basis, the reference 16610 Submariner date, and talking about its key features, how it's held up over the years, and the things that I like the most and the least about it. Also, if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on our latest video content. The Rolex Submariner is truly a watch that needs no introduction. First introduced in 1953 and remaining part of Rolex's catalog ever since, the Submariner is often regarded as the quintessential dive watch, and it helped pioneer an entire genre of underwater timepieces during the early days of scuba diving in the 1950s. In regards to the reference 16610, it first debuted in the late 1980s and remained in constant production for more than 2 decades until it was finally discontinued in 2010 with the arrival of super cases and ceramic bezels. The reference 16610 represents the final evolution of the aluminum bezel Submariner generation, and for many people it is the watch that first comes to mind whenever someone says the words Rolex Submariner. With its 40mm stainless steel case, sapphire crystal, quick-set movement, and 300-meter depth rating, the reference 16610 Submariner offers many of the conveniences of a modern Submariner watch. However, its classic case proportions and aluminum bezel insert make it immediately visually distinct from subsequent Submariner models. This means that the reference 16610 is the most modern Submariner that you can get while still adhering to the classic case proportions that defined Rolex's iconic dive watch for more than half a century. Additionally, due to the incredibly long time that the reference 16610 was in production, you can find examples of the watch with an incredibly wide variety of features. For example, you can get a reference 16610 with either a holes or no holes case, tritium or superluminova on the hands and dial, with or without an inner bezel engraving, and with a bracelet that has either solid or hollow end links. You can even get the 50th anniversary edition, the reference 16610 LV, which features a bright green aluminum bezel and a black maxi dial with larger hands and hour markers for a colorful and unusual take on the classic stainless steel Submariner. Now, as far as which version of the reference 16610 Submariner I own, mine is an N series from the beginning of the 1990s, so it's one that has tritium lume, a holes case, and a bracelet with hollow end links. I sincerely thought about purchasing a no-date Submariner since it's more true to the history of Rolex's iconic dive watch, and as much as I love the symmetry of a time-only dial, I simply use the date feature all too often, and I would have significantly missed having it on my daily timepiece. Ever since I was a little kid, I always wanted a Rolex Submariner. I used to be amazed at how my mother's Datejust was automatic winding and waterproof, and when I found out that the same company that made her watch also made one that was even more water resistant, I just knew that I had to have it. However, once I found out how much a Submariner cost and compared it to my weekly childhood allowance, I was a bit crushed and quickly gave up on the dream of buying one. However, I never stopped wanting a Submariner. Fast forward about another 2 decades and I was finally able to afford my dream watch. Although at the time that I bought it, a reference 16610 Submariner cost significantly less than it does today. There's a saying, don't meet your heroes, but that really doesn't apply when it comes to the reference 16610. I've owned my Submariner for several years now, and not once have I ever regretted my decision to purchase it. At the time that I bought my Submariner, it was already due for service, and even though it is now several years past its recommended service interval, my watch is still superbly accurate and continues to run within COSC specs. I've worn my Submariner more than any other watch in the years that I've owned it, and although it's now overdue for service and covered in marks and scratches, it still runs exactly as it should. The 16610 Submariner is objectively a great watch, and it's easy to discuss its numerous merits at length. There's a reason why the Rolex Submariner is the world's most famous dive watch. It's undeniably fantastic. However, no watch is perfect, so what would I change about the reference 16610? Honestly, not a lot. Probably my biggest gripe with the reference 16610 Submariner, or any other Rolex watch from the same era, is the bracelet. Compared to modern Rolex bracelets, the Oyster bracelet on the reference 16610 simply seems a bit lightweight and jangly. With hollow end links, hollow center links, and a stamped fold-over clasp, the reference 16610's bracelet lacks the same heft and precision engineering that you'll find on a modern Rolex watch. However, these same factors that upon first impression almost make the bracelet seem cheap are exactly the same traits that make it extremely comfortable. The hollow center links allow the bracelet to move more freely with your wrist, and as anyone familiar with vintage watches will tell you, its lightweight nature actually becomes a comfort-promoting strength once the bracelet's been properly sized. Additionally, the motion of the unidirectional bezel is noticeably less refined on the reference 16610 compared to its ceramic bezel successors. However, it's still significantly better than what you'll find on most other dive watches out there. Now, since my reference 16610 is one of the older ones, it's of the variety that features tritium on its dial and hands, which means that it no longer glows in the dark. While I do prefer my watches to glow, the ultra-legible dial of the Submariner means that I still have no trouble reading it in low light conditions. Additionally, the slight patina on my hands and hour markers helps make my 16610 unique, and I wouldn't trade them for a glowing set no matter how bright the new lume was. I personally own more watches than I care to admit, and working here means I also get to handle some of the absolute coolest and most exclusive pieces in the world. However, even after several years of owning one and wearing it on a daily basis, the reference 16610 Submariner is one of my absolute favorite watches, and I know that I'll be keeping mine for the rest of my life. Thanks for watching our long-term review of the Rolex Submariner 16610. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can stay up to date on our latest video content.